Welcome to The Growth Equation. This isn't your typical business podcast. We're keeping it real about the challenges of scaling up. Period. I'm Tristan Wright and I've been there. I've built and scaled my own business. I've sold it. I've learned a ton along the way. Now I'm bringing you the no BS stories of founders who are in the trenches right now, navigating that messy middle. We're talking advertising, marketing, design, creative, branding, the whole 9 yards. Doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur or running a team of 100. Everyone's got a secret sauce, that thing that makes them different, better. We're going to uncover it. So grab a coffee and let's get real. Today we're talking to Isaac from Apex. Isaac, welcome.
Thanks, Tristan. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, my pleasure, mate. I want to hear a bit about your business. Tell us a bit about where the name came from and the logo, the ape on the logo.
Oh, it's not a particularly interesting story. I'm like a sucker for puns and wordplay in general. And we wanted something that was going to be not super corporate and boring and stand out in the marketplace. So, Apex, and then, Apex is in peak of a mountain where we help our clients get to. And then, I'm always a fan in my businesses of having some sort of unique twist or mascot, and, the rest was, kind of, wrote itself.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, the business name is spelled Ape, APE, hyphen X, and the logo or the mark is a face of an ape.
A cute little gorilla.
Yes, sorry, cute little gorilla. So, Isaac, SEO and PPC services is your game. Is that?
That's right. Yeah.
Where you started? Has Apex always been in that space?
No, we've kind of refined, I would say, down to that over the past few years. We've been doing this now for 7 years, and my background was pretty much, I was a writer / editor, and was going kind of stir crazy looking after my daughter at home when she was born, and I stumbled into ghostwriting business blogs for Brisbane-based businesses. And after picking up a couple of clients, I was like, oh, okay, there's actually, a business here. And that was then the gateway into digital marketing. It's like, oh, what is this SEO thing? And, how do we build websites? And, it's, as I'm sure being in the space more or less, or at least on the periphery of it, it can very quickly be a rabbit hole, and you don't know where to stop. So we kind of offered everything to everyone, whether it was organic social media, blog writing, email marketing, website design, blah, blah, blah. And then sort of pumped the brakes a bit and went, oh, we would probably be much better just focusing on our core competencies. So we did the old Pareto / Occam's razor, where we went, what are we the best at, or what are we getting the best results at? And we just, pretty much distilled the business down to the search side of marketing. So now we're pretty focused on just helping people get more customers through Google search.
Yep. So when you say more through Google search, that incorporates both SEO and PPC?
Correct. Yeah. We normally use Google Ads or web design as like a jump off point, because, it's much more tangible and easy to sell, frankly, than SEO. The fun conversation with SEO is always like, there's 200 rankings factors and we could try this and this and this, and it might take 6 months, and hey, at the end of that, it might not work. That's often really fun to try to sell to people, as many of your listeners I'm sure can relate to. So a lot of businesses for a website is much more tangible, and Google Ads, even though it works on a lot of the similar principles of SEO, it's got much faster time to results. We can switch on a campaign this morning and we can have leads coming in this afternoon. Yes. So we find that
more likely to cost money.
Of course, and I mean, every coin has two sides, right? So when you switch them off, then the leads stop coming in. So we normally try to, build a really good client relationship, either by having, a 4 to 6 week website rebuild project, and that normally just instills a lot of buyer confidence and good relationship with them. Or if their website's already in a good standing, then we'll start off with a Google Ads campaign and help getting some leads. And then essentially, like, the new website might improve their conversion rate and get them more leads in, or the ads campaign might get new leads in. And, then we sort of, off the back of that, can upsell SEO as a bolt-on.
Yeah, got you. So you started the business 7 years ago because you bought almost because you bought at home kind of thing. So you're you had a child and you were looking after the child and you needed something to do. You built the business. Where is it today? Are you is it just you? Do you have some freelancers? Do you have a couple of staff? What does it look like?
Yeah, so we're a fully remote business. We're at I think 11, and we're not full timers. I've got one other business partner here in Brisbane, and then everyone else is remote working, a mix of onshore and offshore. And my business model is very much one of specialist resources doing specific tasks. I am the everyman, or the jack of all trades, master of none, sitting in my seat. And my function is pretty much, to be the conductor on some of the campaigns and also interacting with the clients and handling sales calls and, be that client facing angle, which dealing with a lot of Brisbane businesses is obviously practical, me being here.
Yes.
And then I've got people who are much better at me than their specific functions. So I've got an ex Google Ads employee who runs some of our campaigns. We've got, an SEO who's been doing SEO for 12 years. Content writers who only write content, graphic designers who only design graphics. So it's a bit of a decentralized agency model. I know that there are some, potentially smaller operations, not in terms of revenue, but rather in terms of headcount. You might have two or three multi-skilled, cross-skilled people who are all invested in the business, or full-timers, on typical digital marketing salaries and whatnot. We have grown in a more decentralized way where we'll identify what are the pain points at the ICP, and then design a service to try to fulfill that as a service, and then break it down and delegate out each individual function. So in an SEO campaign, you can have everything from web development to content writing, potentially graphic design, if we want to do infographics or blog images or something like that. And then you've got like your on-page technical people and your off-page link builders. So an SEO campaign might have up to 5 or even 6 people involved in it, but not in like a full-time capacity again. And what we found is breaking it down in this way means that we're able to actually deliver a lot more value for clients by compartmentalizing and basically line iteming a lot of the campaign deliverables out to specialized resources. Then here's one SEO manager at $130 an hour. How many hours do you want to pay us this month? And then that person is responsible for everything in the campaign. So I'm not saying it's the right way or the wrong way.
It's the
There's
way that
obviously
works for you.
it's the pros and cons, of each approach. There's definitely pros and cons to each approach, and the grass is often greener on the other side, as I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. But this is the way that we've evolved the business model, and it's gotten us this far, and it's gotten our clients some tremendous results. So, I'm a big believer of the proof is in the pudding, and so far, the pudding has been serving us pretty well. So.
Nice, I like that. Now, you said you've got a business partner. So, did you set the business up yourself and then bring someone in, or I'm interested in that?
Yeah, no, so it was me just initially, but then I found that my skills were not 100% aligned with the long-term growth needs of the business. So I'm more like the creative person, and then I've got someone else who's a bit more systems focused.
Yeah.
So
Okay. How did you come about that, and how did you like? So, business partnerships can either be boom or bust, and people either love them or hate them. So, uh, and I've heard about like a lot of businesses will start as a partnership and then dissolve, and then other businesses it'll be the inverse type thing. So, it's hardly ever the inverse where a second or third partner comes in this sort of space. So, I'm interested. How is it working for you now? And how did you merge two businesses, or what was the story there?
No, I mean my business partner is not full time in the business, more
Okay.
of a silent partner, and we pretty much just have our monthly, quarterly check-ins together, and refocus on what are the goals of the business and what are we each doing towards working on those. I'm more like the face of the business. My business partner is more a back end systems driven person because of her background.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I think we yin yang pretty well off each other. Obviously, we don't always see eye to eye, but I think that if you do have a business partner, they should be quite different or diametrically,
Mm.
um, not opposed. I think opposed is not the right word, but that you should look at things from different angles for the good of the business, because otherwise, you have one person who may be redundant all in all.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really interesting concept. But yeah, totally agree. You need to have different skill sets. So,
Yeah,
because
that's a much more eloquent way of saying what I was trying to say. Yes.
well, I've been doing lots of talking, so I was interpreting what you were trying to say.
Yeah,
So
yeah, good. Keep doing that.
yeah, yeah. So so 7, 8 years, like, and you've got, let's say, 11 now. Has it been smooth? Oh, sorry, 11 headcount now, so part timers,
Yeah,
whatnot. Has it been smooth sailing? Has it been constant adding one new person every 10 months, or what's the growth journey been like?
good question. Uh, I would say it's been pretty gradual. I wouldn't say it's always been, the up and to the right graph in terms of headcount. We definitely, shrink and grow as the not only the number of projects and clients that we're working with, but also the nature of the services that we're delivering. So the immediate, I guess, chip in the graph, if you want to term it as such, but that comes to mind is that as soon as we stopped doing a lot of what I would call fluff work, which is like organic social media support and like way more bespoke projects. We're talking about like year 2 or 3 of the business where we went, okay, what are we doing? Where we 80/20 it. I would say we probably dropped 2 or 3 people off the roll, but there was no real tangible impact in terms of like the company revenue, and we just became more efficient because we just stopped doing the things that we shouldn't have been doing at that point. And it has a tangible impact. I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate to the power of being able to say no
Yeah,
to work.
it's hard
um,
to start with, but it
yeah.
makes a big difference.
Yeah. And I still, like, to this day, get like a semi-electric thrill where I get something come into my inbox, and even if it's a returning client or a new client, and like they're outlining all these crazy ideas in the project, and I'll sit down, and to this day I'm still bending over to look at it. And I'm like, okay, hang on, let me, can we do this? Can we fulfill this? And I know that it's not fitting into the shape of the services that we fulfill. And eventually I'll come to the right conclusion and be like, okay, no, this is we don't do this. We don't design custom HTML email signatures with links to this and that. I'm like, oh, but he's a nice guy, and we built his website, and we could do that. And then I'm like, hang on, I couldn't charge enough for this. Like, even if I could find the resources internally and we figure it out, it's like, this is not something we do. We're not like
Mhm.
this type of company. The same with like brand design and stuff like this. It's just not really something that we've got systemized, and that's where it really starts to cost you. So, and when I eventually come to the right conclusion and say, sorry, we can't do this, or we don't do this, you feel like a weight is off you again. So I think for anyone out there who is struggling to say no a lot of the time, tap into that adrenaline or endorphin rush that you get from saying no, and try to recreate that the next time that you get a not perfect or not good opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. I couldn't have said it better. The power of saying no means you're going to be able to grow your business much smoother and much easier because you're much clearer on who you can actually help.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, that a big part of that is also, refining your ICP and services, um, ideal customer profile, in case anyone's missing. I assume your audience is clued in enough to know what the ICP is, but
I would hope that everyone knows
yeah,
what it is.
yeah.
So,
But yeah, just really distilling down who is it that we serve. And again, like, this is it feels like you're leaving money on the table a lot of the time, because I'll give you an example where we, were serving, every man and his dog, and then we did the old 80/20 in about year 3, I think. I mean, we try and do this constantly because I think that there's always a danger of, you know creeping one way or another, or you slowly spreading your services too thin, or your customer profile too thin, or too broad rather. So we try and refocus at the start of every year and go, okay, did we do what we set out to do? Did we serve our ICP like 80%?
Mm.
As in 80, it was 80% of our projects for our ICP, or do we need to hammer down on this again? And so one thing that we did was we 80/20'd our customer base and looked at it and went, oh, okay, so even though we've gotten some really awesome results for e-commerce brands, the majority of the revenue that we're generating and the majority of the results that we're getting for people are from high ticket service businesses and generating them leads through SEO and Google Ads. So that was our 80/20 moment where we stopped actively pursuing e-commerce, which is not to say that we couldn't do that, but in terms of like systemizing, working on an e-commerce site is very different to working on a high ticket lead based business.
Yeah. Like an e-commerce site, it's they might be selling, let's say, a $200 product, and you've got $15 to play with, kind of thing, and it's high volume. Whereas a high ticket one is you might have $1,000 to play with for a quality lead.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
uh,
exactly. And I mean, I think that's what makes it such a good fit for search based marketing, high ticket. Um, we always get the odd, mobile phone screen repair company asking us, what's going to be the ROI of a campaign? And I'm like, are you selling online, or what are you doing? Oh no, I sell $80 phone screen repair to my postcode. Like, yeah, it's going to be difficult for SEO to do anything for you
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Like, have you
a bit like
set up a Google business profile and deliver a good service? Like, that's my advice to you.
yeah,
Whereas, yeah, someone's selling, someone's got a customer value of, $15,000, financial advisor, for example, or, professional, even personal training. Personal training is like a little bit not a great example, but, that's probably like even at the lower end of high ticket, I would say, depending on how many upsells and things you can manage. But
mm,
yeah, healthcare companies, professional services, finance, videography, a lot of these, real anything where they've got like a 4-figure or more customer lifetime value is normally like a really good fit for search, because they understand the investment. First of all, there's often like a business or marketing mindset within the business, whether it's the business owner or they've got a marketing manager. So it's often easier to have the conversation around return on investment, and they're often got a bit more tolerance and patience as well for a managed advertising campaign. So we've just found that that's the smoother road to travel for us.
yeah, totally. So I want to hear about the journey. Like, you're talking about the smoother road, but what about the bumpy road? What's the bumpy road been like for you? What issues have you had?
Oh, well, I mean, I can pretty much just sum it up in one word or two, depending on how you want to spell it, which is startups. Like, and not to say that, startups are evil or anything like that. And, they do fulfill an important, role in our ecosystem. But, it's the old, I want it cheap, I want it good, and I want it fast.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe you can manage two of those, but
Mm.
it's the constant, hand to mouth, the $5 client, calls you asking, when the results are going to come in. The $5,000 client, just pays the invoice and says thanks.
Yeah.
So it's really a big, you end up with better projects when people pay you more. So that's another sort of mindset and lens shift that we deliberately made with our ICP, is um, being very clinical in terms of who we work with, and we use. I think you could do much worse than just using LinkedIn Sales Navigator's pre-existing filters on defining your ICP. I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying, "Oh, so what special techniques or methodologies or whatever do you use to determine your ICP?" And I said, "Well, if you want the blunt answer, just sit down with Sales Navigator, and even if you're not using it itself, just use their existing fields and use that as like a little questionnaire and figure out who is your ideal customer."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's one thing like figuring out your ideal customer, but once you did figure that out, how did you make that transition to purely focusing on them and only taking on those clients? Because
Well,
that's
it
where
makes
everyone often gets stuck.
absolutely. I mean, it looks beautiful in like your ICP Google document, but actually then executing that, it's a combination. And there's no silver bullet answer here. I don't think there's like a single thing that we did that changed the complete trajectory of the business. But it's like saying no to all these startups and like embryonic businesses, because even though you can deliver a good service, it's often not worth that the hassle. Sorry, startups. um, it's like but for them and for you both, it's a relationship where both people feel like they're getting taken advantage of, which is not really a situation you want to be in. So just saying no to not non-ideal work in terms of like client sizing or niches, or project types as well, just leads to a better team morale, leads to better feedback online because you're actually doing, the things that you are good at and want to do. So saying no to the wrong work, just reaching out to the right people, instead of just, machine gunning every single person on LinkedIn, hoping that, they're going to have, your requirements. You can be much more specific with your messaging as well. So this all fee and when I say messaging, it's not only in like your outreach, it's also in your organic social content you put it there. It's in your website content. So like our main heading on our homepage is now we help you get more leads, traffic, and sales through search marketing. So like this is already saying what it is we do. And if we wanted to be even more bullish about this, we would even put like, the industries that we work with, which actually we do have on a different section, but like in the main headline, you could be like, we help dentists, we help orthodontic dentists get more leads through blah, blah, blah. You know,
It's really interesting. Like marketing agencies, I'll say marketing agencies, design agencies, creatives, web designs, theoretically, they should know this, but it's often the plumber with the leaky tap. So you're really good at doing it for others, but I guess this is all you're almost going in the direct sales or direct marketing angle with what you were just saying then. So,
I
um,
think a lot of the time people get too creative and they really want to show, that they're a special snowflake, and sometimes the actual core message gets lost in that.
mm,
I think there's a lot of agencies out there who do it well, but there's so many more that um, get lost by the wayside and lost in their own creativity. And guess what? The first thing that happens is that they can't rank
yes,
because they're busy talking about some esoteric special system or term that they've come up with. And guess what? Google doesn't know what that is. Users
yeah,
don't know what that is. So I think a lot of the time just saying what you mean, um,
in plain English.
yeah, it's a shortcut.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It should be 101, but sometimes we just forget it because we're too close to it. So need to
Absolutely.
take a step back and look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah. And I mean, I think as well, because website, like say in the example of, writing and designing your website, because that's often like quite a lengthy process, especially, I'm sure I'm not alone when I say that, when you're building your own website versus a client's, you spend a lot more time and resources on it.
Mm,
Um, and I think during that process as well, it can be easy to, along the way, lose focus on what the best practice or the core message or whatever was in the first place.
yeah, totally. I want to change tack here.
Yeah.
AI. What are you seeing at the moment, and how are you implementing it?
So we're using it day to day, as I'm sure everyone is. I'm falling out of love with it more and more, I would say. Just, I think that on a societal level, it kind of sucks. Obviously, on the day to day, I think it's okay. It's like this. Functionality wise, obviously, it's doing some amazing things.
Yeah,
I'm getting it to, if I can't be bothered transcribing something, I'll just take a snip and dump it into ChatGPT and say, hey, can you transcribe this? That's a very simple one. And then everything from as well, like, oh, I need to extract the key information from this YouTube video, but the creator forgot to timestamp it, so it's going to be a nightmare for me to find it. So I'll just again copy the transcript, dump it in, and say what I need. There's like an almost unlimited number of use cases, and we're not even talking about things like chatbots and automations and things like that. Um, then from like an SEO perspective, we've also got a few different workflows we're experimenting with where we take an existing piece of content that's either provided by the client or just written off the cuff by a creative writer, and then we'll grab all the keywords and their level of focus that need to be incorporated, and then sort of get the AI to mesh them together before a final proofread. So there's
Yeah.
definitely a lot of use cases out there. I My personal pet peeves with it are people using it, but like you ever chatting with someone online in like a professional capacity or otherwise, and you start to like sense there's something about these responses that are just not quite like there's no typos for a start. Like, why are there no typos? Why is all the punctuation perfect? No one writes like this. And I think what I'm experiencing, at least on a personal level, is a general increasing distrust of the information that I'm receiving, even when I'm talking to a person. There's like that suspicion in the back of your mind of, are you actually registering what I'm giving you here? So, as much as I think it's an awesome tool, um, and at the end of the day, that's all it is a tool. Um,
Mm.
and I think that that's where a lot of people probably overstep, I would say, and expect it to be, just this magical solution that's just going to fix everything for them. I like it as one more arrow in the quiver, but I'm a little bit wary in general of over relying on it, not only for the reliability issues, obviously, but also for the just taking everything at face value, and also the I'm very, very, very cautious about reducing our own ability to think critically.
Yeah. I think it should be there as a to reduce workload, but we need to be the decision makers and we need to be able to do critical analysis along the way.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the best analogy is also the simplest one, which is just treat it as, an unskilled virtual assistant. And like that also doesn't have any feelings, which is great because, I don't know if you've ever, lost your temper with the AI, but occasionally I'm like, that's not what I asked you to do.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and you get angry and it says, "That's fair." So,
Oh, I don't think I've used any profanity, but yes, I have been at the edge of my tether a few times with it. I'm like, bro, that's
yeah.
when I get really upset. I start saying, bro, that's not what I said. That's not what I asked for.
And then we look back like, I did ask for that, but I can see how it could have been misinterpreted in a different way.
No,
So,
no, you're never wrong. You're never wrong.
no, no, we're never wrong. I actually find it in that sense. I do go back and look. I'm like, I've made a whole heap of assumptions that AI should have. I thought AI would have known, but of course they're not going to know this. So I need to be a lot more specific in my requests.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the secret sauce, if there is one, is to be really long-winded and specific in what it is you ask for. I think everyone knows it by now, but crap or short prompt in, and you'll get a crap or short prompt answer out.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So, um, all right. So we've talked about your journey, how you how you had that good progress to where you are today. Um, some of the issues that you've had, your team. Where do you see SEO, PPC, search being in say 3 to 5 years time? What's gonna change in that world?
I think we'll continue to see, I mean, year on year, even though Google's market share as such is remaining pretty constant, I think the overall demand will slowly start to taper off. We're already talking about um, the fact that information-based searches are becoming less valuable. The days of affiliate marketing and being able to drive tons of informational type traffic for display ad revenue or affiliate links, and build a profitable blog that way, for example. I think those days are never coming back. So I would say my broad take on that's not to say I think Google's going to go bankrupt anytime soon. Obviously, they're one of the largest tech companies in the world, and they've got a lot of skin in the game to make sure that they stay as the monopoly. So I think it's never going to go away. I think these AI overviews and things will slowly continue to leach away informational traffic, but with things like Google Maps and Google Ads, I think these are not easily replaceable with people using AI. If I'm looking for a laundromat near me or a dentist near me or emergency plumber, I'm not going to ask ChatGPT. I don't think that, and this is not only my personal take, but also like anecdotal. AI is obviously a big hot topic around there, so I make it my business to kind of anytime AI comes up in a conversation, I will be taking mental notes and being like, okay, so this is what the humans or the people, because I'm very aware of my own bias as a search marketer and someone in the digital marketing sphere. And I'm also aware that the way that I use and interact with the internet as a whole is very different to, your typical layman a lot of the time. So, and I think as digital marketers, we often forget that just because we know how to do all these crazy things with Google and websites doesn't matter
Doesn't
to
mean you're
most
great
people.
at it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so just avoiding those blinkers and just paying attention to kind of the pulse of society, to use a broad term there. I think just people are not really changing their search behavior as much as the SEO industry propaganda will have you think.
yeah, yeah, totally. There are going to be changes, and we need to be adaptive to it. But we're so close to it, we see things that are happening a lot sooner than the greater or broader industry, and it's not going to impact the greater business world as much as it impacts the marketing, digital marketing space on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think we're the closest to the sun, so we're going to get burned first. But
Yeah.
I think, how long that timeline is in terms of, when does the end user really start to feel the effects of those changes, whatever they may be. That's anyone's guess. I think 3 to 5 years is a pretty sensible timeline for, things to change. But what those things are is anyone's guess.
Yeah, totally. Isaac, it's been a pleasure talking to you today, mate. If people want to reach out to you, get in touch, what's the best way to connect?
Oh, you can find me on LinkedIn, Isaac Alexander. And you can also, if you're interested, head over to our website, check out a little bit about what we do. If you think you might be one of those people who got lost in the sauce while making your own website and want a free third-party take on your website and marketing, you can also request a free website and marketing review by hitting the big yellow button on our site.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Tristan. It's been a pleasure.
That's a wrap. Thanks for tuning into The Growth Equation. If you've enjoyed the show, hit that subscribe button and leave a review. It helps us big time. Catch you next time. And if you want more, head over to evolvetogrow.com.au for show notes and exclusive content.